snow fell softly over the valley, drifting in slow, gentle spirals as if carried by a peaceful breath from the mountains beyond. It was the 22nd day of December, and the little village of Winterlight lay tucked beneath blankets of shimmering white. The rooftops glowed like sugared gingerbread. The narrow cobblestone lanes curved like sleepy rivers, and warm candlelight spilled from every window as if each home held its own tiny sun. Winterlight was a quiet place, quiet in the comforting way of wool blankets and warm cocoa, of rocking chairs and softly glowing lanterns. But more than anything, Winterlight was known for something far greater than its beauty: the great Christmas bell. High atop the hill, at the edge of the village, stood an old stone church, small and humble, with deep blue shingles and wooden doors worn smooth by decades of winter winds. Above it rose a square tower, and inside that tower hung a massive bell unlike any other. No one knew who had forged it. No one knew how many winters it had seen. But every villager understood its purpose. Each year on Christmas Eve, just as dusk settled and the first star appeared, the great Christmas bell rang a single, long golden note. It was said that the sound carried magic. Some villagers felt memories stir when they heard it, soft and sweet, like the scent of a childhood cookie. Others felt a warmth in their chest that seemed to chase away every worry. A few said the tone felt like forgiveness, or peace, or hope. Whatever the truth, the result was always the same. When the Christmas bell rang, Winterlight felt whole. This year, however, something had changed. And the first to feel it was a girl named Elinor. Elinor was 12 years old, quiet and observant, with a gentle face framed by light brown hair that always clung in tiny sparks to her wool hat. Winter air loved playing tricks with it. She loved her village, especially during December, when chimneys smoked like sleepy dragons and snowflakes clung to her coat in soft little clusters. But on this particular evening, as she climbed the hill to look at the church, she felt a small, unexplainable pinch in her heart. The great Christmas bell had not made a single sound all season. Normally, Finian, the elder man who served as the bell's caretaker, would ring soft practice tones in the days before Christmas. Not loud enough for the whole village to hear, but just enough for those paying attention. Elinor always listened for them. She liked to imagine the bell humming gently behind the snow and stone, waking itself from a year-long slumber. But today there was only silence, the kind of silence that felt wrong. Elinor stood on the hill with snow brushing her cheeks like tiny feathers. She stared up at the tower. The windows were dark, no glow from Finian's small room, no flicker from his lantern, not even smoke curling from his chimney. She squinted. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw a flicker of light inside the tower, like a spark, but it vanished. A moment later she heard it, a faint crack, like ice fracturing far away, followed by a soft crystalline sound, almost like a chime. Elinor froze. The sound didn't repeat. The wind hushed itself as if listening too. Then the world returned to its normal winter quiet. Elinor's breath curled into a pale cloud. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it, but she knew it deep in her bones, the way she knew when snow was coming, or when the river ice was thin. She walked home with the feeling wrapped around her shoulders like a cold scarf. Even the warm hearth in her family's cottage couldn't melt it away. She sipped her apple tea. She sat with her mother by the fire. She crawled beneath her quilted blankets. but still the silence of the bell tower lingered in her thoughts. In the middle of the night, snow rattled softly against her window, and Elinor opened her eyes to see flakes sliding down the glass, illuminated by moonlight. She listened for a sound, any sound, from the tower. Nothing. The next morning, her suspicions were confirmed. She stepped outside just as neighbors gathered in worried clusters near the path to the church. Elinor hurried toward them, boots crunching over the powdered snow. "What's happened?" she asked a tall man, tightening his scarf. The answer came from Mrs. Caldwell, one of the elders. Her voice trembled. "The Christmas bell. It hasn't responded to the morning check. No practice tone, no vibration. It's completely still." A hush fell over the group, as if even speaking the truth felt dangerous. Someone added, "We knocked on Finian's door. No answer." Elinor's heartbeat quickened. She looked up the hill. The tower seemed distant, foreign, almost asleep. A light breeze draped her with fresh snowflakes, and for a moment she felt the same strange shimmer in the air she'd noticed the night before. A sense of urgency welled inside her. Something was happening to the bell, and to Finian, and maybe to the magic itself. If no one else would go looking for answers, she would. Her hands curled into small fists inside her mittens. Whatever mystery lay hidden in the silence of the bell tower, Elinor knew one thing. This Christmas would be unlike any Winterlight had ever known, and she was meant to uncover why. Chapter 2. The Trail in the Snow. The morning sun rose pale and quiet over Winterlight, its light softened by drifting curtains of snow that floated lazily through the air. The sky was a gentle silver grey, the colour of polished pewter, and the world seemed wrapped in a hush so delicate that even footsteps felt too loud for it. Elinor walked slowly up the hill toward the church, her boots sinking into the fresh snowfall. The world smelled clean and cold, like frost and pine, though she knew she should feel comforted by the beauty of the morning. Her chest tightened with each step. She couldn't shake the memory of the faint crystalline sound she'd heard the night before. It lingered in her mind like a half-forgotten dream. When she reached the churchyard, a small group of villagers had gathered again. They stood bundled in heavy coats, breath curling into the air like drifting ghosts. No one spoke much. They simply stared at the silent tower. "It's never been this quiet," an older man murmured, rubbing his gloved hands together. "Not in all my years." "And Finian still hasn't appeared," Mrs. Caldwell added, her voice filled with worry. Elinor's gaze travelled upward. The dark windows of the bell tower looked like deep, unblinking eyes. No movement, no sound. The bell within felt not silent, but absent somehow, as if part of its presence had faded. "Maybe he went to visit the next village," someone suggested. But the idea dissolved quickly. Finian was old and slow, and snow this deep would have made travel nearly impossible. Elinor swallowed. She felt something tugging her from inside the tower, like a thread pulling at her heart. She stepped closer. A faint shimmer caught her eye near the base of the tower, just behind the church, where the stones curved around the back. She hesitated, then slipped away from the murmuring crowd and walked around the side of the building. The moment she turned the corner, her breath hitched. There, pressed into the untouched snow, was a trail, not footsteps, not animal tracks, but a strange, delicate pattern, as if something thin and crystalline had brushed the ground. Like frost given shape, it twisted and curved like the path of a drifting snowflake. The imprint glimmered faintly in the light, the edges sparkling as though dusted with crushed diamonds. Elinor crouched down and touched it. The snow felt colder than normal, much colder. Her fingertips tingled, as if the ice held a whisper of energy. "What are you?" she whispered to the trail. It led away from the church, down past the fence, and into the forest beyond. The tall pines stood dark and silent, their branches sagging under the weight of snow between them. The trail shimmered like a thread of silver weaving into the woods. Elinor straightened, heart beating faster. Something had come to the bell tower, something not quite natural. She stared at the trees, at their quiet, shadowed stillness. A soft wind stirred, carrying with it the faintest sound, so faint she wondered if she imagined it. A low, distant hum, like the echo of a hum in a seashell, or like a bell tone stretched thin and far away. Elinor shivered. She knew she should go back to the others, tell them what she found, but something inside her urged her forward, something gentle yet insistent, as if the forest itself were calling her name, Elinor. She startled and spun around. Her mother stood a few paces behind her, cheeks flushed from the cold. "There you are," her mother said, walking toward her with quick steps. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Don't wander too far, dear. People are worried enough this morning." Elinor hesitated. She wanted to tell her mother about the shimmering trail, but when she opened her mouth, the words tangled on her tongue. It felt too strange to explain, too unbelievable, and part of her feared that if she said it aloud, the magic might slip away like breath on glass. "I'm okay," Elinor said softly. "I was just looking." Her mother nodded, though concern shadowed her expression. She placed a hand on Elinor's shoulder. "Come home. We'll let the elders handle this." Elinor took one last glance at the forest. The wind rustled the trees. Something glimmered in the shadows. She felt certain that Finian had followed that trail, and whatever had silenced the bell had come from there. All day she couldn't stop thinking about it. Not while helping her mother knead dough for the evening rolls. Not while sweeping the snow from their doorstep. Not even while her father set wood in the fireplace, filling the room with the sweet scent of pine. Her thoughts returned again and again to the forest, to the icy trail, to the faint hum. Late that night, long after her parents had gone to bed and the village lights had dimmed, Elinor sat by her window, wrapped in a blanket. Snowflakes drifted down in slow motion, soft and peaceful. The moon cast a pale glow across the rooftops. And then she saw it, a flicker. Deep within the tree line, a flash of pale blue light, brief as a heartbeat. Elinor stood so quickly, her blanket slipped to the floor. The forest was calling her. Not with danger, not with fear, but with something gentle, something important, something magical. She pressed her hand to the cold window glass, her breath fogging the pain. She knew what she had to do. Tomorrow she would follow the trail, alone if she had to, for Finian, for the great Christmas bell, for Winterlight. The forest held the answers, and she was the only one who seemed to hear them. Chapter 3: The House of Ice and the Missing Bell Keeper. The next morning arrived quietly, wrapped in a soft blanket of snowfall. Winterlight felt unusually hushed, as if the entire village were holding its breath. Elinor rose before her parents, her heart already racing with determination. She dressed in her warmest clothes, woolen stockings, a thick knitted sweater, her long coat, and the scarf her grandmother had made her last Christmas. She tucked a lantern into her bag, along with a small loaf of sweetbread and a red apple. Then she slipped out the door, her boots whispering into the fresh snow. The world welcomed her with cold air that tingled her cheeks and a faint glow of morning sky painting everything in soft lavender light. For a moment, Elinor simply stood still, letting the quiet settle around her like a promise. Then she turned toward the forest. The shimmering trail from the day before was still there. Frost traced the snow in swirling patterns, each curve glittering like silver threads woven into the ground. It felt almost alive, like the path wanted her to follow. Elinor took a deep breath, and she stepped into the trees. The forest was a cathedral of winter-tall pines, rose like pillars, their branches bending in slow arcs beneath fresh drifts. Every sound seemed magnified, the crunch of her boots, the soft flutter of a distant bird, the sigh of wind weaving through needles. But beneath those sounds, faint and gentle, was something else. A hum, like a bell far away, singing in a dream. Elinor's heart tightened. She followed the trail deeper, where the trees grew thicker and their trunks leaned inward, forming a corridor of shadows and snow-laced branches. As she walked, the light changed. The deeper she went, the more the world seemed dusted with a quiet silver glow. After nearly an hour, Elinor noticed something strange ahead. A faint shimmer through the trees, like moonlight trapped in ice. She stepped carefully toward it, and then she saw it. At the heart of a clearing stood a tiny house made entirely of frozen light. Its walls were smooth, translucent ice tinged with pale blue and white, as if carved from a glacier touched by starlight. The roof looked like frosted glass sprinkled with snow. Icicles hung from the edges like delicate crystal bells, chiming softly when the wind brushed them. Elinor stared, breathless. It was impossible, and yet it was beautiful. A house of ice, hidden deep in the forest, glowing faintly from within. She stepped closer, each movement slow and respectful, as though approaching something sacred. The icy door was half open. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice slipping into the quiet like a pebble into a still pond. No answer. Inside, the air felt strangely warm, not cold. Faint light pulsed from the icy walls, casting gentle reflections across the floor. It looked like the house was breathing light. Elinor took a cautious step inside, and then she saw him. Finian. He sat slumped in a chair at a small table carved from frost, his head resting against the icy wall. He looked peaceful but unnaturally still. His long grey beard glimmered faintly with frost, and his eyes were closed as if he slept the deepest sleep of his life. "Finian!" Elinor exclaimed, rushing to his side. But when she touched his arm, a shiver ran through her body. His skin was warm, too warm, a strange warmth that felt like magic rather than life. His eyelids flickered slightly, but he didn't wake. Elinor's heart hammered, fear prickling along her spine. "What happened to you?" Then she saw something glowing against the ice wall beside him. A faint, swirling mark etched into the surface. It looked like the trail she had followed, but far more intricate, like frost shaped into runes or symbols. She reached out to touch it, but hesitated. The hum she'd heard in the forest grew stronger in her ears. A soft, airy voice seemed to whisper behind her. "He is safe for now." Elinor spun around, but the room was empty. only the gentle chiming of the icicles outside. "Who's there?" she whispered. No voice answered, but the icy cymbals pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Elinor turned back to Finian. She knelt beside him and tried shaking his shoulder. "Please wake up," she murmured. "The village needs you. The bell needs you." Finian didn't stir. Elinor's lantern cast warm light across his still face. That was when she noticed something small and metallic lying near his hand. A bell clapper, the piece inside a bell that makes it ring. Her breath caught. This wasn't the clapper for a small hand bell. It was too large, too heavy, intricately carved with swirling patterns like vines of frost. It was the clapper of the great Christmas bell. Elinor touched it with trembling fingers. It felt cool, heavy, powerful. Why was it here? Why wasn't it in the bell tower? A chill, this one real, slid down her spine. Without the clapper, the great Christmas bell could never ring. Someone had taken it. Taken Finian. Taken the magic of Christmas itself, and placed them in this strange frozen house. Elinor looked toward the shimmering doorway. The icy forest waited outside, quiet and mysterious. She knew now that this was no ordinary winter. Something magical, yet broken, was unfolding, and she somehow had stepped into the heart of it. She closed her fingers tightly around the clapper. No matter what had happened here, no matter what lay deeper within the forest, she would not leave without finding the truth. She would restore the Christmas bell, for Finian, for her village, for the spirit of Christmas itself. Elinor rose, steadying her breath, and with the clapper in her hand, she stepped back into the winter woods, determined to follow the mystery wherever it led. Chapter 4. The Crystal of Memories. The forest felt different now. As Elinor stepped away from the house of ice, a soft shiver passed through the trees, as though the woods sensed that something important had begun. Snow drifted silently through the branches, glimmering faintly in the pale winter light. With the clapper of the great Christmas bell held tightly in her mittened hands, she followed the shimmering frost trail deeper into the trees. The path wound like a silver ribbon, curving between ancient firs. Their branches arched overhead, forming a tunnel that glowed with a strange, gentle luminescence, almost as if the forest itself created its own moonlight. The hum she had heard earlier grew clearer, still distant, still soft, but unmistakably there, like a heartbeat beneath layers of snow. As she walked, the temperature shifted. Not colder, but somehow deeper. The air felt thicker, more resonant, as though filled with invisible threads of magic. Elinor's breath slowed, her senses sharpened. She felt both fearful and comforted, as if something old and kind was watching over her. Eventually, the trees opened into a small glade. At its center rose a tall column of pure ice. Elinor gasped softly. The column wasn't rough or jagged like natural ice. It was smooth, carved with swirling patterns that wrapped around its surface like ribbons caught in a breeze. The curves reminded Elinor of the frost trail she had followed and of the runes etched inside the ice house. But most striking of all was what lay at the heart of the column, suspended inside the ice, glowing gently, floated a crystal the size of a lantern flame. It pulsed softly, like a tiny beating heart. With each pulse, ripples of light shimmered outward, dancing along the carved patterns. Elinor stepped closer, mesmerized. The hum grew stronger. The light grew warmer. Her fingers tingled as she reached out a hand and touched the cold surface of the column. Instantly, a soft wave of warmth surged up her arm, like the comfort of a blanket pulled over her shoulders. Then the light pulsed brighter. The hum became a melody, soft, distant, familiar. And suddenly the world melted away. Elinor found herself standing in a different place, a memory, but not her own. She saw Finian, years younger, standing at the foot of the great Christmas bell. He placed his hand reverently against its side, his eyes warm with pride. A voice spoke nearby. "Finian," said an elder man, "you must remember, the bell rings only when the village's heart is in harmony." Finian nodded solemnly. "I know. It is a gift and a responsibility." Elinor watched as Finian learned to care for the bell, polishing its bronze shell, tending to its magic, listening to its soft inner hum. As the memory faded, another rose to take its place. This time she saw Winterlight bathed in candlelight. The villagers gathered in the square as snow drifted down. The bell rang, a single warm golden tone, and the entire village seemed to radiate peace. Children smiled, elders wiped quiet tears, and neighbors embraced. Elinor felt the warmth of it in her chest. Another memory formed. A cold night, Finian climbing the bell tower with a lantern. But he wasn't alone. A pale, shimmering figure stood beside him, a being with a body shaped from ice and starlight, its eyes glowing like frost-kissed moonbeams. It was beautiful, ethereal, and deeply sad. Finian spoke to the creature. "You are the spirit of Winterlight," he whispered. The being nodded. "The bell and I are bound," it said in a soft, echoing voice. "Its magic is my heart, but the balance is fading. The winters grow heavier. The memories grow dimmer." Finian touched the being's hand, if it could be called a hand. "I will protect the bell," he promised. The spirit's glow flickered. "And who will protect me?" The memory shattered like thin ice. Elinor blinked as the forest returned around her. Her heart thudded. Her breath trembled in the cold air. "What happened to the spirit?" she whispered. As if in answer, the crystal inside the ice column pulsed once, bright, sharp. Another memory emerged Finian in the forest. The spirit beside him, dimmer, weaker. A sudden storm of freezing wind and swirling magic. Finian reaching for the spirit reaching back, and then a burst of cold light. A cry of pain. Silence. The spirit collapsed into a form of pure frost, drifting toward the ice house Elinor had found. Finian had followed until the magic overwhelmed him and trapped him in deep, enchanted sleep. The clapper of the great Christmas bell had fallen from the spirit's grasp and landed near Finian. Elinor felt tears sting her eyes. The spirit wasn't evil. It wasn't trying to harm the village. It was simply broken, weak, disconnected from the bell whose magic sustained it. The forest felt heavier, as if grieving too. Elinor pressed her hand to her heart. The clapper felt warm through her coat pocket. "I will help you," she whispered to the glowing crystal. "I'll help both of you." As if hearing her promise, the crystal pulsed gently, once, twice, and then settled into a slow, steady glow. Elinor understood the only way to wake Finian and restore the bell and save the spirit was to return the clapper to the bell and to reignite its magic. She stepped back from the ice column. The forest seemed to open a path for her. The hum faded, replaced by the soft whisper of falling snow. With renewed determination warming her heart, Elinor began walking into the deeper forest, into the heart of the mystery, into the fate that awaited Winterlight. Chapter 5. The Heart of the Christmas Bell. The forest grew quieter as Elinor walked, the trees closing around her like gentle sentinels of snow and evergreen. The frost trail she followed shimmered more brightly now, glowing with a pale blue light that pulsed softly with each of her steps. It felt as though the magic of winter light itself was guiding her. The deeper she went, the more the world changed. The snow sparkled with faint silver flecks, the air hummed like distant song, and tiny beads of frost drifted through the air, not falling downward but moving in slow circles, as if caught in an unseen dance. Elinor felt strangely at home in this enchanted stillness. She didn't know how long she'd been walking when suddenly the trees parted before her, lay a vast clearing surrounded by tall pines. In the center stood something extraordinary, a great archway of ice, shaped like an enormous half-circle, rising toward the sky. Frost curled along its edges in intricate patterns, like carvings etched by ancient hands. The arch glowed faintly with a warm golden light, just a whisper of color, but unmistakable. Elinor stepped closer. As she approached the archway, she noticed something resting at its base. A stone pedestal, and on it, carved deep into the frozen surface, was a symbol, a bell. Not just any bell. The great Christmas bell, stylized with swirling patterns that matched the markings she had seen inside the ice house. Elinor's heart fluttered. She reached out and traced the symbol with her mitten. The stone felt warm beneath her touch, though it was covered in snow. When her fingers brushed the very center of the carving, a soft tone echoed through the clearing. Not loud, not startling, a gentle note, warm and golden, like the memory of a lullaby. Then the archway shimmered. A wave of light rolled upward from its base, spilling across the ice like awakening magic. The space inside the arch glowed brighter and brighter until it lit up like a doorway filled with morning sunlight. Elinor blinked, shielding her eyes. When the light softened, she saw it, a chamber beyond the archway, an open space made of frost and crystal, its ceiling a dome of translucent ice that let in glowing winter light. Snow dust floated upward in slow spirals, drawn toward the center of the room like tiny stars, and at the very heart of the chamber hung a glowing object, suspended in mid-air, a sphere of golden light. It pulsed rhythmically, a heartbeat of warmth in the frozen world. Elinor stepped forward. The air grew warmer as she approached, though her breath still formed pale clouds before her lips. Her boots crunched on the icy floor, each sound echoing softly through the chamber. As she neared the glowing sphere, she saw tiny images swirling inside it, fleeting impressions, like wisps of dreams, snow falling over winterlight, children laughing beneath lanterns, Finian polishing the bell, villagers singing carols by candlelight, and always, above it all, the great Christmas bell shining in the tower. Elinor realized what she was seeing. "These are the memories of the village," she whispered. "The memories the bell carried every Christmas Eve. The memories that gave the bell its warmth, its magic." The sphere pulsed softly, almost like it acknowledged her. Elinor reached out her hand, but stopped just before touching it. She looked down at the clapper she carried in her coat pocket, wrapped in a wool cloth. The clapper felt warm, as if eager to return home, but as she reached toward the sphere of light, a sudden gust of wind swept through the chamber. The ice walls shuddered, the golden glow flickered, and a shape materialized at the far side of the room. A tall, slender figure, the spirit of Winterlight. Elinor gasped softly. The spirit looked only half-formed now. Its body wavered like shimmering frost smoke, its shape held together by threads of dimming light. Its eyes, once bright like icy stars, were now faint and flickering. "You," Elinor whispered, her voice trembling. The spirit inclined its head slowly. "I am what remains," it said, its voice soft and echoing, like wind through crystal chimes, broken fragments of what once was whole. Elinor took a step closer, though fear tugged at her ribs. Why did the bell fall silent? The spirit's gaze shifted toward the glowing sphere. "The bell's strength is the warmth of memory," it said. "But memories fade when hearts grow distant. This winter, the bond weakened." Elinor swallowed. And what happened to Finian? The spirit closed its half-formed eyes. The light within it flickered. "He tried to help me. The magic was unraveling. I sought refuge in the forest, but without the bell's warmth, I fell." He followed. The storm took him, and the magic trapped him in sleep. Elinor felt tears sting her eyes. "So you didn't mean to harm him?" "I wished only to survive," the spirit whispered. "But in doing so, I stole the heart of Christmas from Winterlight." Elinor's hand tightened around the clapper. "What do I need to do?" The spirit looked at her, truly looked. Its flickering eyes held a faint glow of hope. "You must restore the heart of the bell," it said. "Place the clapper within the sphere, then return it to the tower. Only there can the magic become whole." Elinor stepped closer to the glowing sphere. The warmth washed over her like sunlight through a window on a winter morning. The chamber hummed softly, a lullaby of memories and hope. With steady hands, she unwrapped the clapper. Golden light reflected off its engraved surface. She held it out toward the sphere. The spirit raised a trembling hand of frost. "Elinor," it whispered. She looked up. "You must be brave," the spirit said, "for light must always pass through darkness before it shines." Elinor nodded slowly. "I'm ready." And with that, she pressed the clapper into the heart of the light. Chapter 6. The Ringing of the Christmas Bell. The moment the clapper touched the glowing sphere, the chamber filled with a soft rising hum, warm, gentle, and beautiful. The light swelled like a breath taken after a long sleep, and Elinor felt her heart lift with it. The golden glow wrapped around the clapper, warming it until it shimmered like a star. The spirit of Winterlight stepped back, its faint form trembling. Light brushed against its ice-like skin, weaving threads of warmth through its fading body. For the first time, the spirit looked almost hopeful. The sphere pulsed brightly, then slowly began to dim, its magic flowing into the clapper like streams of sunlight returning to a lantern's wick. When the light faded, Elinor found herself holding the clapper once more, but now it glowed softly, pulsing with the memories of Winterlight. The sphere had vanished, the chamber stilled, the air felt clearer, brighter, more alive. The spirit spoke, its voice stronger now. "You have restored the memory of the bell, but its voice will not return until it hangs once more in the tower of Winterlight." Elinor nodded, pressing the glowing clapper to her chest. "I'll hurry." She turned to leave, but the spirit called out to her with a fragile echo. "Elinor?" She paused. "Do not be afraid if the path seems dark. Magic often blooms brightest in the dimmest hours." Elinor met its shimmering gaze. "I won't be afraid," she whispered. With that, she stepped through the archway and into the forest once more. The journey back. The forest felt different now, alive, awake. The frost trail beneath her boots shone brilliantly, as if guiding her home. Snowflakes drifted gently around her, catching in her hair and on her coat, but the cold no longer bit at her skin. She clutched the warm clapper in her hands, walking faster and faster until finally, through the trees, she saw the first glimpse of Winterlight. The village lights flickered like fireflies nestled beneath the snow. When she emerged from the forest's edge, several villagers gasped, "Elinor, where have you been?" "Child, we were worried," but Elinor only pointed toward the hill. "Finian," she said breathlessly. "He's alive, but he's trapped in sleep. And the bell, I can fix it, but I need to reach the tower." Her voice was filled with a strength that quieted the worried chorus around her. Mrs. Caldwell stepped forward, her eyes widening as she noticed the glow in Elinor's hands. "Is that—" Elinor nodded. "The heart of the bell." The villagers parted like a wave, opening the way for her. Her mother rushed toward her, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Elinor, my brave girl, go. We believe you." Snow drifted softly as Elinor climbed the hill to the church. The bell tower loomed above her, silent and cold. Inside, the wooden stairs creaked beneath her boots as she ascended. The air grew colder the higher she climbed, the stone walls thick with frost. At last she reached the chamber where the great Christmas bell hung. It felt enormous, ancient, and lonely in its silence. But when Elinor stepped toward it, the clapper in her hands glowed brighter, illuminating the tower in warm gold. She climbed the wooden ladder to reach the cradle where the clapper should rest. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of what this moment meant. Carefully, she placed the clapper back inside the bell. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then, a pulse of golden light rippled through the bell. The frost melted from the air. Warmth spread through the tower like sunlight breaking through clouds. Elinor stepped back. The bell shifted slightly. Then, bong. The sound rang gently at first, like a sigh of relief, then again louder this time, warmer, brighter. Bong. The magic swept through the village like a wave of gold windows glowed. Snow sparkled. Every villager stopped in their tracks, turning toward the tower. Elinor felt tears rise in her eyes. The bell was awake. The magic was returning. And then, soft footsteps echoed behind her. She turned. Finian stood in the doorway, lantern in hand, looking tired but alive. "Elinor," he whispered, "you did it." She ran to him, hugging him tightly, his arms wrapped gently around her. "The spirit?" she asked. Finian nodded, eyes shining. "It will heal now. The bell's voice will guide it home." As if in answer, a faint glow flickered through the tower window. Elinor looked out high above the forest. A silhouette of shimmering frost light drifted upward, whole once more, its form brightening with every chime of the bell. Elinor smiled softly. The spirit was going home. Christmas Eve. That night, Winterlight gathered beneath the falling snow. Children held lanterns, neighbors whispered wishes, and families stood close, warmth radiating between them. When the first star appeared, Finian stepped forward. Beside him stood Elinor. "Tonight," he said, his voice full of pride, "our Christmas bell rings not just with magic, but with the courage of a child who listened to her heart." He nodded to Elinor. She placed her hand on the rope, and together they rang the bell. The note that flowed over Winterlight was unlike anything the village had ever heard. A tone so warm, so gentle, so full of hope that it brought tears to many eyes. Memories blossomed in every heart. Love rekindled, peace settled like soft snowfall, and somewhere above the treetops, the spirit of Winterlight glowed brighter than any star. As the sound drifted over the hills, Elinor closed her eyes, smiling softly. Christmas had been saved, her home was safe, and the magic of Winterlight would ring for generations to come.